Hi, it's Paula from Honest String. Welcome to my Facebook Live session for Design on the Fly vintage beads. It's going to be super fun today. I'm going to be showing you beads from the Bead Nerd from Nez, who is one of my vintage bead supplier. And Nez has a huge range of different beads. It's the first time I've actually done a design on the fly featuring Nez's beads. And there'll be a link in the post, which is to Nez's website, the Bead Nerd, the vintage bead D-stash. So I'll go through and show you different things that I've made using some of Nez's beads, and also things where I've used some repurposed items to create vintage style pieces. So the way these sessions work, it's a design on the fly session where I will actually go through and create different things from this package of beads that I'll open on camera shortly that have come from Nez. And I'll also showcase for you some of the things that I've made in the past using beads that are vintage. Good morning, Alex. Nice to see you here. As always, there's a comment section, so by all means, please ask questions, all that type of thing throughout the session. I'm always happy to answer questions and share where I get supplies from or design tips and techniques, and I'll do my best to answer them. And we'll go through, this session will go for about an hour and a half, 2 hours today. So I am starting earlier than I normally would start because there is a footy game on this afternoon that I'm going to go to, but I will go through and show you different things. So first thing I'm going to do is just flick over to my work scene and just show you some of the things that I've learnt to make with vintage beads over the years. So the types of beads that are considered to be vintage are things that are using elements that have potentially been either repurposed or come from other areas. Good morning, Lavinia. Hi, Helen. Nice to see you here too. So I thought I'd just show you some of the things that I've actually made with vintage beads. So these glass shields that are here are part of what I've gotten from Nez in the past. So this beautiful matte green and shiny green glass dagger style beads. And when I actually bought these from Nez, she challenged me to come up with a design using them that actually still showcased the glass. And ironically, this particular design is called the Nestle earring, so I did name them after Nez. Hi, Alicia. So this is a gorgeous stud earring using some vintage glass beads. So that's one design. Another one, and there was more different types of glass in this than I actually had with from Nez. So there was this lovely fan shape. So it's a very similar design to the previous one, but it just showcases a different way of using a fan shape as opposed to a spear shape. This again is the spear shape in a different colour, and I made these ones a dangle earring. So the previous pair were a stud, this pair is a dangle version, and this is in the olive and lavender colourway. And then this was another sort of smaller fan-shaped design, and this is a navy, and navy is a beautiful colour to work with. It's often hard to get navy beads. I'm glad you love these, Anita. They're a really nice design earring, and I know that people had a lot of fun learning to make these Nestle earrings. So that's the navy design pair that is a stud pair, dangle pair. So that's part of some of the vintage things. Other things I've made these rings in, with vintage beads that have come from Nez. So this is just a really simply designed ring on a band with a lovely vintage peach stone already in its setting. So that makes it really easy to actually make a ring out of that. And of course there's a greeny coloured one as well. Other things I've made are these earrings using, these are some of Nez's vintage hot pink rivolis in the centre. So this is part of one of a class I'm teaching around ancient recipe, how to make rivolis out of different earrings and earrings out of rivolis. And then this is another one with this sort of, oblong vintage rivoli that also came from Nez. And of course, a black and white pair as well. So this again is one of Nez's vintage pear-shaped drops. So there's lots of different earring designs that I've made in that space. And I thought I'd show you just a couple of recycled pieces as well, because I sort of consider vintage to be recycled also. So this is a pendant that I made a few years ago using a brooch face. So this was a brooch face that I got from a op shop. And I actually turned this into a pendant. So it's got a beautiful tassel and a lovely ceramic focal on it. But, repurposing items like this to actually create a piece is another way to bring a vintage look into your work. And another one that I created when Nancy Kane came out here a few years ago and she taught a class on architectural forms. I actually made this ring holder, and I made it from one of these vintage chandelier spikes that my friend Alex actually gave me. So I made a whole stack of earrings out of the square cut rivoli at the top, but I also made this ring holder out of that, so you can see how that sort of formed together. So that's another sort of design in using vintage pieces. And the other piece I have, and I've not done anything with these, but I have these gorgeous lucite belt buckles or collar clips, I think they probably are. So that's something else I've sort of got there, possibly came from my mum or my grandma. I don't know where they might have come from, but that's something that I can sort of think about using in a piece at some time. And I have these beautiful, beautiful vintage collar clips. I know exactly what these ones are, and they came from, definitely from my grandma. So I've not used them, possibly need a little bit of repair work to them, like there's a stone missing there and a clean up, but you know, that's something special to potentially use in a piece at some time. So that's some of the vintage things that I've done in the past. And now I'm going to flip over to this beautiful parcel of beads that I have from Nez. So I asked Nez to come up with beads. I don't know what's in here, so this is definitely a surprise for me as well as for you. And Nez has provided me with a supply of beads. So let's see what we're going to be working with today. Okay, I've got a gorgeous red button. Look at that beautiful button with a shank on it. It's got some nice little divots in there as well. So straight away, these are the type, good morning Sandra, these are the types of things that become focals straight up when I look at something like that. It's a lovely glass button too. It's got a really nice feel and weight to it, and it's a beautiful cherry red colour. So I really love that one. Oh, she's also popped in some blue flat backed. They look a little bit like a beehive. So they're sort of flat back domed piece. So there's 4 of those there as well. So that's another interesting thing. Potentially they may go together like that in some sort of bead embroidery sort of function. She's popped in a couple of, let me just grab these ones out first. Look at these beautiful rings. Now these have got straight up crystals all the way around them in that sort of pink. They're already set in the stone. They've got a couple of little hooks on them, so you can make them into an earring. Potentially I might just cut one of those off, and all of a sudden I've got earrings ready made. I mean, that's a really nice simple one to actually do. We've got also in here a couple of already set marquee shaped crystals. They've got a sort of a divot in the center of them. It might be hard for you to see that on camera, but they've got a nice V-shaped dent in them, and already with a hook on them or a hole on them to hang an earring from. So they're a beautiful shape ready to go basically. She's also popped in some little red triangle beads. They look like they've got an eye or something imprinted on them. So there's a string of those. There's a string of little tiny pink hearts. My goodness, they're gorgeous. Little tiny hearts there. Another string of like a paddle sort of a bead shape. So that's another interesting shape to use because it's flattened at one end, but it's got a hole the other way. So we'll see how they'll actually come together. And there's a lovely little strand of leaves as well. So another good decorative bead. And then some of these little cabs, and I've actually purchased these from Nez before, but as a 14 mil, I think that's pretty much 14 mil looking at it. These are great. Like if I'm thinking about, you know, this sort of Nestle design earring, that 14 mil would sit really nicely in the top of that as well. So 14 mil is a great size to use as a stud top for an earring or an earring head. Okay, so what am I going to start with first? Anybody got any suggestions of what they'd like to see me work on first? I mean, these ones, I could pretty much knock these off in about 1 minute. So they're going to be super, super easy to actually do. So let me grab out my earring hooks for that, because I'm actually not going to do hardly anything to those ones. They are going to be done straight up with an earring hook on them. And it's really just a matter then of what size hook do I want to use. And I think I might use this sort of round size hook that I have here, or potentially the little hoop one. Let's see which one actually looks best with those. And I'm actually going to just snip off the one of the hooks that are on here. Let me find my glasses before I do anything. I'm just going to snip off one of these hooks. So they're pretty easy just to remove. So I'm just going to snip that very gently. Look, it wasn't even as if it was there. You can't even see where that's been removed from. And then it's a matter of which size hook do I want to try with that. So I'm going to try this sort of little mini round one first. I'll just open up that wire, pop that little crystal ring on there and close up that wire. So straight up, there's an earring already completed. And let's try the other one with the other side. You snip the loop, yeah, they're really easy, these ones, to use, Lavinia, because you can just snip off that little loop straight up, and all of a sudden we've got an earring ready to go. So there's the other design with that hook there. So I'm not sure which one. They're both probably okay. Maybe I might try one on and let's see which one looks better. So this is the hook style, and this is the round style. And I'm going to flick over to my face so that you can actually see. Okay, so here we go. There is the round style on this side, and here is the hook style on this side. I think I probably like the hook one better. So look, easy done. That's one pair of earrings already made up. So those crystal rings come from Nez. Really great, easy way to actually make a pair of earrings with those. So straight up, I'll just swap that hook over and then I can move that to one side because that'll be one pair of earrings already completed. Okay, so we've opened up all of the other bits and pieces in this package, and I think I'm going to start with the button in the first instance, because I know straight up that that's going to be a lovely central focal on a piece. So what are we going to do with that button? I will add some things around the other side, so things like leaves and some of these other sort of red beads. I think we'll go with it. So there we go, one pair of earrings done and dusted. Super easy. Let me just flip over to work, so you want to see my work scene, not the top of my head. Goodness. Okay, so there we go, one pair of earrings done, finished. We've got this lovely little pink background to them with the hooks on them, ready to go. Okay, I'll put that out of the way. All right, now let me think about this red button. Now, buttons have a shank on them, traditionally, and I know there's always, lots of commentary about, should you remove the shank off a button, and, what is the rules about using some of these vintage buttons. I mean, I suppose my preference is that they're used rather than tucked away and not necessarily, hidden from forever. So I will probably just cut that shank off so that it actually does sit really nicely as a central focal. And then I think potentially, maybe that drop might go at the bottom of it, but maybe not. Some of this yellow and red could go around the outside like that. Actually, that's not too bad. That's a little bit different to something that I would normally do, but that's probably not a bad way to create some sort of brooch or medallion piece out of that. Actually, that's what it could be. It could be a really cool brooch. Good morning, Shelley. Nice to see you all the way from the States with us today as well. Okay, so let's play with this, I think, as a concept. What do you think about that? I mean, it's very not like my colours, so this is great as a challenge for me. Would I use pink instead of yellow? Any thoughts about that? Pink instead of yellow? I probably like that a little bit better. Anybody got any comments on pink or yellow? I'll leave that. We'll just leave those sitting there for the minute whilst I set this particular button in a piece of bead embroidery stiff stuff. So just going to grab out some stiff stuff. And for those of you who haven't done bead embroidery before, stiff stuff is usually the backing foundation that we set our beadwork into. And I tend to try and get a colour that's sort of complementary to what I'm actually working on. So in this case, I've grabbed a piece of orange because it's the most close that I've got in colour. And that's actually, doesn't that make that look far more orange than red once I put it on an orange background? Oh, that amazes me how much, you know, if I looked at that in the first instance, I'd say red. Now I'm looking at it, it looks really orange, which I probably like even better. And potentially it's going to go really well with those. Anyway, let's play around. Okay, so I'm just going to cut a piece of stiff stuff. So given that, you know, the finished size of this, I probably won't want it much bigger than that, which is about probably 8 centimetres by 8 centimetres. I'm actually just going to cut that piece to start with, not necessarily knowing what the finished shape is going to be. I mean, I think it'll probably end up being round, and, you know, I could do a lovely circle if I was being, you know, really measured and precise. And I actually got a whole, a couple of weeks ago, of somebody suggested one of these circular rulers to use as a bead sizer, which I thought, oh, okay, I'll give that a go. So this circular ruler, it's got, you know, 25, 28 different sizes on it. So that's how I know that that's a 14 mil, because that pops directly into that hole and is a 14 mil size. So it's really good, not only for drawing circles, but for measuring your beads. So that's a 14 mil. This blue one here, if it doesn't fit in there, that's probably between a 16 and an 18 mil. So just a really good way to help measure your beads as well, what fits into different holes. So bead ruler, but of course I can use it to draw circles if I wanted to as well. So drawing a circle in the middle of my piece there just sort of helps. What size is that one there? That one there, 28 mil. So I'm just going to draw that circle right in the middle of my stiff stuff. And then I might just put a couple of lines through it just so that I can see where the centre of that is. So there's one line there. And if I then go and just do off these little guides there's a couple of little guides to mark where that centre is. Then I can just do a rule across there and a rule that way. And now all of a sudden I can start to see exactly where the center is, and then if I want to space other beads around it. So really good tip if you can grab one of these. I just got this off Temu or AliExpress. It wasn't very expensive. So a circular ruler guide for bead sizing and for drawing shapes. Okay, now I know where the center is. Now this is where the shank can become useful or not, because I could cut a hole in the center here and pull the shank through, but I will still have that sitting out of the back. And I can also then just glue it straight down without the shank and disturbing that piece. So that's what I'm actually going to do, is just cut the shank right off the back of that. So it's just going to come off the back of my button. And then I'll be able to just glue that down really easily onto my piece. Now to glue that, I'm going to use some E6000 glue, which is just here. Really good as a glue for sticking buttons and bits and pieces down on beadwork. It's a little bit sort of flexible still after you've utilized, you know, that you've glued it on, so you can help with, you know, moving and getting things into position. I probably need a new tube of this because it seems to be a bit dried, and I tend to buy this in the small tubes rather than the bigger tubes because it does dry out really quickly. So don't waste money on big tubes. I'd rather get these littler ones and just use that. Then I will use something to spread the glue over the back with. So I keep a toothpick sort of handy on my desk to do that type of thing. Spread the glue a bit around. And then I'm just going to pop that right in that circle. So now I know where it sits. I've got my lines now either side to see where that shape is. I'm just going to sit that in the center. Okay, let's get a needle and thread and get some beads around that. So the other thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to twist that so that those little lines on the button are going straight up and down as well. That just looks better to me aesthetically. All right, I'm just going to grab a needle now and some thread, and I think I will just use some, what sort of thread am I going to use? I think I'll use a thread on this, and look at this Hana thread that I've got. Look at the colour of that, absolutely perfect for using on this. So a nice orangey sort of coloured Hana thread. They don't make this thread any longer, but I really like using this for beading, and I've got a few in different colours, so I won't use it sparingly. I'll just use it because it's great. So Hana thread is a terrific thread to use for some of these beading projects, for bead embroidery, and this lovely orange blends beautifully with this work. So with my thread, because it's bead embroidery, I will just do a knot at the end of my working thread here, which is the tail end, so that it runs through and holds my beads, holds into my beadwork in place. Goodness, it's taken me a little while to work out how to do a knot, but anyway, I'll get there. And just bring my needle from the back through to the front around the edge of the beadwork. Now, I need to think about what colours I'm going to use to edge this. I think this is a bronze colour to go with this, so I'm going to pull out, this is what I was thinking. I've got these Lusted African Sunset, which is like a little bit of a reddy, bronzy sort of colour. And these are just a size 11 bead. And I'm going to need to do just one really simple edge around first in a peyote strip to be able to build up some beads. And look at that gorgeous colour. It looks really nice with the orange there. Definitely got more of an orange tone than a red tone at the moment. So I'm thinking I'm going to use the yellow and red beads together with this. So that's orange, red and yellow all together. And it is going to create a really nice sort of sunset looking piece, I think. So what do you reckon about that? Orange, red and yellow together. Yellow is one of my least used colours ever. So I very rarely would wear anything yellow. I don't know if I own very much in yellow. So it is a challenge colour for me to use, but I think with orange and red together with yellow is going to look great as a feature focal. I also, my next design on the fly, which is on the 18th of May, is actually featuring yellow as the colour. So tune in for a real challenge next time. Seeing Paula use yellow throughout her beadwork is going to be a challenge. So that one's by Linda from Banjo's Beads. And I've actually already got that yellow package here sitting there, burning a hole in my pocket at the moment, wondering what is inside the yellow package. Okay, so this is just very simple bead embroidery back stitch that I'm doing around this button. So I've just started off. It's always ideal to pick up even numbers of beads. Even numbers work for peyote, whereas odd numbers do not. So I'm always either going to pick up 2 or 4 beads. And now that I've got my sort of ring established, I know where I'm going. I'm picking up 4 beads as opposed to 2 to make that move a little bit faster around the ring. So I'll pick up 4 beads each time, so push my needle to a distance that is approximately 4 beads, come back up through and then go through 5 beads so that I'm capturing that next the added beads onto the previous row every single time. So I'll continue to do that all the way around my piece here with this African Sunset, Lusted African Sunset is the name of this bead, but that sort of bronzy red gold colour looks really good against that orange. Another really good complementary colour that goes with orange is navy. I love orange and navy together. Nez has not given me any navy beads in this circumstance, so I could always add in some navy with this orange colour, and maybe with some of those paddle shaped beads that might be ideal. And if you haven't actually joined Nez's Facebook group, and if Nez is watching today, I might get her to just pop her Facebook group into the chat. Join Nez's group because she often promotes different sales of vintage beads on there. She has a really great range of vintage beads, and she also has, you know, some more contemporary 2-hole beads and other things at times as well. So if you're part of Nez's Facebook group, you get to see some of her sales and things that she has. And I've also popped Nez's website in the chat as well, so you can actually visit her website too and see the vintage beads that are available there. What I really like about the vintage beads, there's a couple of things. Makes us think about design in lots of ways, you know, how to use unusual shapes and components in your beadwork. But it's also, you know, we're saving things that have been, you know, made years and years ago. So how lovely as beaders we're getting to use old components in our work and keeping that alive with different things from other times, I think is a really lovely part about the use of vintage components in your beadwork. So yeah, definitely have a look at Nez's site and check out some of the vintage beads that she has there on site. Doesn't this start to look really good already? I love the look of that orangey bronze. It ties in really well with the little lines in the button. Just sit here and admire my work as I'm doing it. Okay, so keep moving along with this bead embroidery. So because this is the setting row for a peyote capture, I will step up the next round with another colour. I love doing this sort of thing with multiple colours in these rows as well, because it really helps with seeing where your next bead needs to go. So potentially I could start to bring in that yellow and red colours now, so that they tone in with what I'm going to add in later on. I could also do another sort of bronze colour and orange colour, so different sort of options. Let's have a look when I get to the end of this row and see what's next. And the other thing to do, I'll do another row of size 11s, and then I will start to reduce the size of the beads so that they come up over the top of my button and capture it. Now I'm at the end where I can squash in beads. Now remember, I've got to keep an even number. Got a nice little gap here. What I want to do is just pop in 2 beads. I don't want to try and squeeze in 4 because then it bubbles. I'd rather just fit in 2. So I just pop in 2 beads, go through to where I'd previously been, and even though there's the slightest little gap here, you won't actually see that when we do another row of beading later on. So I'll just reinforce that, pull that tight, and that little gap just slightly disappears. So now I've got a beautiful row of peyote all the way around. It's definitely learning Lavinia, isn't it? Understanding where to place your bead with bead embroidery. So good luck with keeping on trying it. Odd shapes is a challenge, but I do like the fact that, you know, round shapes are super easy to work with. Great way to start in terms of bead embroidery. Okay, look at this. I've got yellow. Could I be really adventurous and potentially pop pink in there as well? What do we think about that? What goes next? So that makes it red, yellow, pink. So there I could actually add 9 beads all the way around that, and all of a sudden it's giving me is it Frida Kahlo vibes. It's got that sort of big floral look to it. I quite like that look with all of the different colors in there. Anyone got any thoughts about what that looks like? I don't mind that, and it actually gives me another option then to bring in a pink color as well. So what I love here is, you know, I'll do some more beads that come up over the side of the button, but I've then got nice little triangle gaps here as well that will add potentially some fringing, stitch down these, and then do a bead embroidered edge. That's exactly what I'm going to do. Okay, I'm going to grab another bead that is going to go around this edge. Let me think. I think that, as I said, potentially an orangey red sort of colour. I got this colour a couple of weeks ago. This is called Vermilion Red Matte AB, which is not a bad sort of colour to go with that. That's one option. And I did get that in 8s as well, so I'll just leave those out for the minute. I've also got, I don't know what this one's called, but it's got a nice sort of finish of it. 11 with that sort of AB pinky coated finish on it. I've got some orangey coloured beads. Don't think they're going to go. What else? I do love these. This burnt copper bead. That's not bad, but I think maybe it's a pink that I. And the pink, I want to try a pink that's a pretty close colour to the pink flower. That's not bad. And I'm going to see what I have in yellow, which is going to be very limited. But I do have some yellow, PF557, which is that sort of matte gold colour. Or this one. This is a real yellow. Okay. And oh, this is probably the best one. This is a real yellow. It's like a banana yellow sort of colour. Okay, I'll leave that out. Okay, so I've got some different colours now to add into this. All right, I'm going to go with the 9 flowers around the outside, but I'm not going to add them in just yet. I am going to do my second row of peyote. So I'm going to bring my needle back up through the work. And this row, when you're doing this row in peyote stitch, capturing your cabochon, this is the slowest row to actually do, because you've just got to take your time in getting your needle into the beadwork. So I'm going to do a yellow row next. I can't even believe I'm saying those words. And so I'm just going to skip over a bead and then add a bead each time. So skip over a bead and add a bead, so that I'm creating a lovely little peyote base to continue to bead on. My option then for the second round may be to do that bronzy red colour again. We'll see how that comes up. But you can see there I've just added the 1 stitch peyote all the way around there. Okay, there you go. Nez has just told us that this button is check and it's been made in the 50s. So wow, the button's older than me, which is lovely to say. The button is, 70 years old, and here it is being used in 2024 in a bead embroidery project. And that is what I love about using vintage products in beading, because we are bringing things back to life from another era. I think that's just beautiful story. So anybody made any other things using vintage beads, please tell me about it, because I love hearing the history of repurposed things in beading. Really interesting to see how people use components. I know my friend Alex has a particular passion for all things vintage. If you're a friend of Alex's on Facebook, you will have seen that she often comments on vintage and Art Deco styles of things, and shares lots of beautiful imagery for us all to see, whether it's teapots or shoes or diamond rings, but I know it's a particular love of Alex's, and from my perspective, I just enjoy the fact that I'm getting to repurpose things from another era in my craft today. And as much as I love buying new beads all the time, it's lovely to be able to reuse some of these older styles in beadwork. So this is now looking really beautiful with that yellow. It's looking a little bit like a sunrise, which is what this piece will eventually look like, a summery floral sunrise colours. Really lovely. Nice seeing it to come together. Okay. Now while I'm just stitching away on here, I'm just going to pop on the camera and show you some of the things that I've made using vintage beads over the years. So you can see there is some earrings using some of the cabs that I've gotten from Nez. So they are different shaped rivolis. There's the Nestle earrings there in the white fan shape, along with the repurposed brooch piece that I created a few years ago. I've also got some more of the Nestle earrings coming up on the left there with the red and the green glass. And there's also a pair of earrings I made using some of the vintage chandelier rivolis. My piece there on the left, the green, is got all of Nez's vintage cabochons in the centre. There's another necklace there from a chandelier piece, and the pink piece on the right uses a beautiful vintage flower that is from one of Nez's ranges as well. And I thought I'd just show you repurpose. The white piece there is a plant tag. So I actually bought that at a market. And there, of course, is the ring holder using the vintage chandelier piece as well. So that's just some of the different components and things made out of vintage pieces. Okay, so I've done the row of yellow all the way around while I was talking to you. I might now just do a row of orange, and I think that burnt copper is probably the next colour. So I'm actually going to do one more row of 11, and then I'm going to size down the beads because I'm starting to come up to, you know, the dome or the concave part of this button, and the smaller size beads around the edge will just hold all of this in place. So I'll just do one more row of 11. The base, you can see there now I've got my bronze at the bottom, and now I've got orange and yellow just coming up the side. Lavinia, I'm like you. I like to look in op shops and see, you know, what sort of pieces are around and can be created into other things. And I know that face brooch that I did, the turquoise one a few years ago, I think I paid like $35 or something for that brooch. But I knew straight away what I was going to utilise it for. So it wasn't something that I just thought, oh, I'll just have that sticking around because I love it. I looked at it and thought, oh, I can create that face into that sort of pendant. So $35, oh, well, I think I bought it at an expensive op shop, most likely. It was probably a lot to pay for something like that. But yeah, I certainly do like to look and see what are some of the pieces that are around and how can they be utilised in beadwork. Okay, so I'm getting around my little piece here. Doesn't this look beautiful now with the orange and yellow all the way around it? It's coming together really well. Okay, I'll keep going with my capture. Now, with the little lines that I drew earlier on around my piece, that's going to help me, possibly help me place those other components around. Now, there are 9, and I'm using 9 because that's the colours that I've got here, which of course is an odd number, and I have an even number of little marks. So I'll have to think about the placement of those. It won't be, you know, one here and one here. I'll just, yeah, have to place those carefully around so that they are even. So keep going with this. A beautiful autumn day today. It's going to be a nice day. It's not wet, nice cool mornings, but it's going to be a lovely sunny afternoon here in Melbourne today. So I'm going off to the football this afternoon, so it'll be a nice day sitting at the footy, and hopefully my team will win today. I've got my black and white earrings on, so I will be all ready to support my team this afternoon. Okay, there's my row of orange around, and they've just started to come up over the edge. So now I just want to add one final row of size 15 beads to hold that in place. And I'm going to go back to that bronze colour that I used earlier. And here is, ironically, the matching bronze ones, so in a size 15. So I'm just going to pop them around the edge of my little sunflower thing here. Okay. And the size 15s, once I start to pull that really tightly, they're sitting on top of the yellow bead. They're just going to hold this cab or button cab in place really nicely. So I'll just repeat that all the way around, and then I can start to get fun and add on some of the other beads on here as well. A design on the fly for me, they're just such a beautiful way for me to get creative with different pieces. And I never know. I'm true in the fact that I never open the package until the goes live, their whole unboxing thing. So I don't know what I'm going to be making on this day. And even when I was setting up all the cameras and stuff last night, my husband said to me, "What are you going to be making today?" I don't know. I will see when I unwrap the beads. So I love the creativity that comes from the surprise beads from vendors. So I'm really happy to support different vendors in showcasing their beads as well, because it helps them get new customers, I hope, but it also really helps my creativity in trying different things. So today, this vintage check button from the 50s is going to be the star of the show that we're working on today. And before this morning, I didn't know what it was going to be, but I'm so pleased to see how this is coming together, and just the colour and vibrancy that's come from using oranges and reds and yellows and pinks, and this sort of beautiful sunflower sunshine shape that it's creating is really nice. So if you've got any of those managed to hang on to your grandma's button collections or those sorts of things, raid them for this type of thing, because vintage buttons as a feature in a cabochon are just beautiful. And yeah, I know there's lots of different sorts of buttons out there in the marketplace, but yeah, if you can grab some of those vintage ones, you're not only bringing life to something that has been old and been put away, but you're creating a unique piece all of your own. And that's the beauty of bead embroidery and beading in general. Okay, so that's now really beautifully captured all the way around. It's Glenda, maybe you should bring some of your pieces to a bead meeting. We'll have a look and see how we could utilize them up. I think that'd be a great way. If we did at a bead meeting at times, bring things that you don't know what you're going to do with, because someone else will always have an idea of what to do with it. Especially me. I love coming up with different ideas with different things. Okay, love how that looks right now. And then, of course, I'm going to add these other little flower buttons around the outside. Now, as I said, there's 9 buttons or 9 flowers, and I want to add them so that it's nice and even. Is that the right way? Pink, red, yellow, pink, red, yellow. Yep, look at that. That looks really good like that, with the buttons all the way around. So I might pop a dab of glue on the back of each of those. They've got 2 holes in them, so I'm actually just going to stitch them down with the 2 holes. I'm not going to capture them as cabs all the way around, because I want to do a little bit of fringing in between each of those little triangles, and then I'm going to do a peyote edge or strip all the way around. So that's the plan. So what I want to do is just pop a little bit of glue on the back of each of them, so that I can get them set into place. I probably won't do them all at once because they will move. So let's just start with one. And I'm going to do it so that the holes are going from the... actually, I'm going to start that one up here where my thread is. That'd be smarter. I'm going to do it so that the holes are going from the inside of the flower to the outside of the piece. So let me just push my thread down to this part here, and I'm just going to come up through and add on, just stitch down that little flower bead because they've got the 2 holes. Go back through down to the side here, come up through the opposite side, and then stitch that through again, and then pop that down. So that's now got a little dab of glue behind it, and it's also just got 2 stitches all the way through. Okay, let's do the next colour. So I'll pop a pink one on next, and the pink one again, I'll put the holes going in the same way. Now I'm just going to be really eyeballing how they're going to be placed. I've tried it a couple of times. I know that 9 beads is going to fit around, and they're going to just join like that. Let me just check that one more time though. If they're just touching, that makes it easier for me to do just touching all the way around. Yeah, just touching. So if I place them all like that, they'll fit really nicely. Okay, so I've glued down the pink one. So again, I'm just going to bring my needle through here. This is another thing that I like about using the coloured stiff stuff, the bead embroidery backing as well. Because it's coloured, it just helps blend the project together. You can use black and you can use white, which are pretty much the standard colours, but if you can ever find the coloured stiff stuff, I like to have a little stash of that to be able to use with projects too. I really like if I can get a colour that's close to the main colour of my project. So in this case, I'm using some coloured stiff stuff that I got from Angie at Chicky Babes Beads. I know she has a big range of coloured. Okay, I'll just pop the red one on there. Again, I've got my holes going from the front or the inside to the outside. So just pick up that hole, stitch that down, come back the other way. Okay, there's 3. All right, we'll do the next one. So yellow is next. So the little bit of glue is just helping to hold that in place. As I said, I'll do some sort of fringing in these little triangle gaps that are there. And then a bead embroidery edge. So this will be, oh, I might put a magnet. Yeah, let's put a magnet on the back of it. I'll show you how I've used some of these stitch on magnets as well, or sew in magnets. So that will make this to be a really nice brooch. Brooches are very much in at the moment. There's lots of different brooches out in the marketplace, and this one will be a beautiful bright one. The stitch in magnet gives me the options of it being a brooch, but I can also of course make it a pendant if I wish to as well, by putting a loop on there or something as well. So we'll think about that. Because I'm designing as I go, I don't really know what it will end up looking like just yet, but we'll get there. Okay, there's a pink one just attached in. My thread is getting a little short, so I will add a new thread in shortly. The beauty of bead embroidery, I can just add a thread in at any time, just pop a little knot in the end of my thread and bring it up through the beadwork, and it's attached. It's really easy. The floral focus, so Nez has told us that the floral beads are from West Germany, but we're not sure when these were made. Okay, so we'll just say they're vintage. And Meg's used coloured stiffened felt, and if you can't find the colour pre-stiffened, you stiffen it yourself. Meg, tell us how you stiffen the felt. I'm a bit curious to know that. I've never done that before. I've certainly dyed and painted some of the stiff stuff, but I haven't stiffened it myself. So tell us, how do you stiffen the felt? You're really interesting to read what Meg says about stiffening the felt. Okay, a red next. Okay, and I'll just again stitch from the front to the back with the hole. There's a hole there. The glues just really help to hold that in place while I'm stitching it down. As I said, it's not there to, I wouldn't not stitch it, and I wouldn't just glue it on. I will do some sort of bead capture, but having that, the 2 holes has just helped to stitch that down really nicely. Okay. Next is yellow. And Nez has also given me some of these in a blue colour as well, and I think I'll probably use those together, the blue beehive and the blue flower, I think, possibly with the green leaf at the bottom. Look at that, a triple top. Anyway, that's the next project. I'll just keep finishing this one first. Okay, watered sew. All right, so Meg has told us to stiffen the felt. She waters down fabric blue and soaks the felt and lets it dry. Wow, okay, that's something really good to know, because you can get felt, at Spotlight and places like that really easily. There's lots of different felt around, but being able to stiffen it ourselves, we're creating our own range of bead embroidery backing. That's a fantastic idea, Meg. Thanks for that tip. So fabric glue and just soak it in the felt in it and let it stiffen. Great. So you can get your own colours whenever you want then. There's certainly a broad range of felt colours available for craft. And Alex has told us about a button show every year in Melbourne. So that's in October. Okay. Alex, you've never taken me there before. We must go to the button show and see what's there. Great to be able to see different vintage buttons like this. Pink. Looking good, folks. Looking really good. Okay, again, I've got that back to the front. Oh, sorry, front to the back in terms of stitching it down using the whole. Okay, now I'm just going to make sure that I've still got enough room there. Okay, I need to just move some of those slightly. I'll just move that one. Yep, that potentially. So I'm just slightly moving those over so that my gap wasn't too big just there. Okay, I'll probably push some of these a little bit tighter, but that's okay. I've still got a bit of movement here with this one and this one. Okay, let me come back to that one there, because I'm actually just going to undo that stitching and move that one just slightly so that it is a little bit further over. Same with that one there. So they're not quite touching. Probably went a little bit tight with these ones at the start. It'll all come together though. Okay, so Meg has said there was a tutorial on YouTube by Turtle Soup Beads where she gave different options for stiffening felt. Wow, it'd be great, Meg, if you could ever find the link to that YouTube and share it. That'd be fantastic, so people could get to see that link. That'd be terrific. Or we could all search it ourselves, but if Meg knows which one it is, that makes it even easier. Oh, I just broke my thread. Good job, Paula. Okay, let's run a new thread now. Okay. Again, really super easy to add a thread when you are doing bead embroidery. So I'm just pulling a new thread in and putting a knot in the end of it and going back to where I was and restitching that again. Okay, back to the outside flower. Then we'll add one more. The other thing with beader embroidery and this sort of capturing and color selection and uniformity, all of those things, when you're designing a piece, is having repeating motifs or repeating patterns of things. And I think this little bright edge that I've done with yellow and orange around the center is possibly what I will do a repeat of that somewhere around it, so that it ties that edge in with the rest of the piece. So way outside my color comfort zone using those sort of yellow and orange beads, but I think that'll work really nicely just to tie that in. Probably put a bit too much glue on that one. Okay, where's my holes? There they are. The glue, of course, though, does dry clearly, and if there is too much glue when it's dried, you can you can pick that off. It is an easy glue to work with, so it still holds a bit of movement and memory, so that you can move your piece around slightly if it's in the wrong spot, and you just saw me do that. So as always, when these design on the flies, you get warts and all with me. Where I make a mistake, you get to see it. Okay. Oh, thanks, Meg. Meg's popped the link for stiffening your own felt into the chat. Thanks so much for that, Meg. I'll actually pin that so people get to see where that is. That way, if you're interested in learning how to make your own felt, there's a great YouTube tutorial there. Thanks, Meg, for doing that. Superstar. Okay, so all my flowers are now stitched down. And I know I'm going to do an edge similar to this all the way around, but what I want to do now is fill in these little triangles that are here. So there's little gaps in the beadwork. So to do that, I'm just going to bring my needle from the back through to the front. Now, you've seen me, if you've watched these before, you know how much I love to do bead fringing. And one of the colours that I think I might, no, that's probably too big potentially. That's maybe a little bit pink, I think. I think I probably need a real orange. Yeah, maybe I'll go back to this orange. I want to start to bring in some other sort of little, maybe these little hearts might go in there. Maybe, let's try that. Okay, so this was a string of tiny little hearts that have come from Nez as well. And potentially these little hearts might fit just nicely. Look at that. In that little triangle, maybe. Let's see how they go. So I could just pop one little heart like that. And then if I pop a size 15 and just go back through. Sits like that. That's not bad. Pretty super easy actually. Okay, so I'm just going to come up through that triangle gap there. Grab one of these little pink hearts and pop a 15 on top of it. And go back through the heart so that the 15 is the holding bead. And look at that, it's just sitting just nicely in that little gap there. Okay, let's do that all the way around. Let's fill that really nice. Oh, I quite like that. That little tiny pink heart. So that's helped me bring the pink colour into the piece as well. So it's matching with those sort of pink pressed flower beads. And because it's a heart shape, it's V'd at the bottom. So that V is fitting really nicely into that little gap. What do you think about the little hearts there filling that gap? I reckon that's, yeah, looks pretty good. So the size 15 bronze bead is of course tying in with the bronze beads that we used around the base of the cab. The other thing about creating a sort of a fringe piece like this is it gives another dimension to the piece as well. So anywhere we can create some sort of height or other reference point, that sort of 3D effect, I love that look too. So look at that, those nice little beads are just fitting beautifully in those little gaps there. The hearts are super cute, Nez. They're really pretty, tiny little pink hearts. So they've fitted in here. So this is now, hearts and sunshine, flowers and sunshine. This piece is becoming super brights. And you can see here the orange is just the background orange colour is just sort of blending so nicely with this piece now. It's not offensive. It's not, in your face. It's just really good background colour with this. Okay, so I've got little hearts all the way around now. I really like that look, the way they've come together. Pop them in place. You might just need a little bit of sort of jigging to move in place. You can't necessarily tell they're hearts when looking at them, but if you look at it side on, you can see that sort of raised heart look there. Look really good. Okay, so now I want to do some sort of bead embroidery edge around these flowers. So I'm going to go back to my original size 11 bronze beads, bronzy African luster or whatever they were called. And I'm just going to run a row of that all the way around my pieces. Now, this is going to take me a little bit of a while to do that, so bear with me while I get that started. Again, I am going to try and stick with an even number every time I pick these up so that I know I've got an even number all the way around. So I pick up 4, come back through 5 beads so that I'm joining the beads added to the beads that were already on my piece. And then we'll add some of that orange and yellow around it as well. So it's just tying all of that together. And that looks really lovely with the bronzy colour around the pink. And then I will show you a stick-on magnet that we'll put in the back of this. So I pick up 4. Now when I'm coming through this flower, I'm going to come back up through that last bead that I just added and bring my needle through that last bead like that, so that I'm sort of changing the direction of my bead embroidery. So I've just changed direction by bringing that bead now out of that last bead added. So that way I'm in the right position now to add that next little row of 4 beads around. So I'll repeat that at the next petal. So you can see there now I've changed direction. So come back up through the 5 beads. I've still got this sort of little gap here, and I might end up doing some more fringing, I think, there in that gap, my little hearts, or maybe I'll do a double row of hearts. We'll see. Hasn't necessarily filled that just yet. Okay, keep going with that. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, a row of smaller pearls or something around the edge of the flowers. Yeah, I think so too, Meg. I think I need something else here. I'll just edge this first, and so you can always add those in later wherever those gaps are. That's the beauty of some of the fringing with bead embroidery, is you can add in things, you know, fill in gaps wherever you need to. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, keeping even numbers around this edge. Because we've glued and stitched down those flower beads, though, I'm not so concerned about coming up over the edge of them. And I also don't want to lose the texture of the flowers there as well. This time I'm just adding in 2. And again, I'm going to reverse the direction, so I'll come back through that last bead added so that I'm facing the right way to add that next row on. Like that. You can see there that line's coming together really nicely. 2, 3, 4 around my flower. It's just, it looks beautiful in real life. So some of you may get to see this at a bead meeting or something in the future, but it looks lovely in real life. 2, 3, 4. Am I going to peyote off this back stitch row? I don't know yet. I'm conscious that I don't want to come up over the edge of the flowers, because I think that ruins them, and the fact that they're stitched down and glued down. I don't know that I need to come over the edge of them. And really, I'd have to do at least 2 more rows. I'd have to do at least 1 row of 11 and a row of 15. And that will potentially cover up too much of that flower. I think it looks beautiful with just that plain edge on it. We'll see whether I have to do another peyote edge over this back stitch row. What do you think, people? Do you reckon I need to do another row, or does this look good on its own? The other thing to do is once the edge is actually finished and it's all been trimmed away, you can then add another edge as its joining edge as well. So, you know, there is still ways to add some depth and texture to this outer edge once it's been finished and joined. So this is not necessarily the end. I can still add more if I wanted to. But I quite like just this simple row at the moment around all of these flowers, and because I've stitched and glued them, they will stay in place. Sorry, I just flipped my camera then. They will stay in place, and I don't necessarily have to cover them over completely. Looks really good. Now, is it a pendant or is it a brooch? Who's going to challenge me to bead a rope? You know how I'd really dislike beading ropes, but something like this probably does need a gorgeous beaded rope to go with it. Meg, I don't think the flowers will pull away, Lavinia, because I've glued and stitched them. So I'm confident the flowers are not going to move. Like you can see here, they're stitched and they're glued. I think I'll still add a little bit more fringing in here, in those gaps, potentially. So there'll still be more movement around them. Yeah, don't know. And Meg, I'm consciously still doing even because I'm subconscious like that. But I want to give myself options that if I want to actually do a peyote row, then I'm confident that I can because I've done it evenly. So I'm killing 2 birds with 1 stone here. Just, yeah, being super conscious of doing an even number so that I'm saving myself any future grief if I do decide to do a peyote row. It just makes it easier to remember to count every time as well. So, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4 or 2 every single time. Okay. Anita, I might add an extra row. We'll see. I'm also conscious that I've got some other beads I want to play with today as well. But I really don't want to lose the texture of these flowers as they are. So I will have to do at least at least 2 rows of peyote to come up over the edge, and that might lose some of the impact of the flower. But also, you know, as I said earlier, it might tie in some of those colours really well as well. So, you know, never say never. I'll get to the end and see what it looks like. Again, I'm just reversing each time so that my thread and needle are ready to move forward when I come to the next flower. And what that also does is highlight for me where I've got some of these other gaps that are going to need to be filled with some sort of fringing. So that's okay. I wouldn't have wanted to try and fit 10 of those flowers around the piece either, partly because I didn't have colours to do 10. I had, you know, the 3 colour options to go around, not 5. I would have needed 5 to make it an even number. And I think the 9 looks really nice just as the edge flower, but it's just meant that, yeah, my gap is a little bit skew-iff on a couple of them, but it's not too bad. It won't be noticeable when you're finished. Now, Lavinia's voting for a brooch. Nez is voting for a brooch. Mordred wants to see a rope. Mordred, you know how much I hate doing ropes, but I might do one for this because it does look beautiful. Maybe if I do a detachable rope, it could be a brooch or a pendant. That might be the idea. It's, you know, could be multi-purpose potentially. I think I put too many in there. I only needed 2 there, not 4. Yeah, maybe if I could do some sort of, let me think about it. The backing part of this, when I'll put the brooch on so you'll see what I mean. But when I create a rope, if I do a detachable rope, so a bail at the back that's hidden, so you won't see the bail with the brooch, and then it had a rope that sort of came off it, that could work too. So that's another idea. And you'll see what I mean when I get to that. It will take me a little while to get that bit done. I'll get this to brooch format today though, and then I'll think about the rope part of things and how I would do that, because you're definitely not going to see me do a rope on a Facebook Live, because I am the slowest rope maker going around. So you won't see that today, but you will see that as a finished piece, I promise, if I do a rope. Okay, come round. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have kept to my even number every time. So I've pretty much picked up 4 beads, 4 beads, 2 beads, or 4, 4, 4, and then 2 to go around each of these flowers. Nearly done. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, the beauty of bead embroidered pieces, if one of these, you know, little flower beads, if I'm a bit concerned that it's loose, or that yellow one, that's where my thread broke earlier, I might just go back and restitch that yellow and pink one there, so that they're nice and firm. So because it's bead embroidery, I can go backwards and forwards and reinforce things as I'm making it. Yes, Meg, I've officially promised that I'm going to do a rope. Gosh, now I'm putting pressure on myself. Maybe don't give me a timeline, because, gosh, no, maybe I do need a deadline. That's probably more, yeah, give me a deadline. When should I have the rope done by? I do work better to a deadline rather than just one of these days I'll get around to it. By the next bead meeting, so by Mother's Day, will I have a rope done for this? So I'm thinking it might be, I think it would be a spiral rope actually. So something, I'm definitely going to have to come back and just stitch those couple down again. A spiral rope in oranges, pinks and reds, I think, is what needs to, I can see that's how it will sort of come together. Buy next design on the fly. Okay, so that's 4 weeks. Thanks, Anita. You've given me an extra week for people. Yes, okay, so I've got a 4-week deadline to make a rope to go with this. Okay, thank you. And yeah, I think a spiral in those colours would look really good. But as I said, I'll get this to brooch format today, and then I'm going to go on and do another pair of earrings, I think, in the blue and green colours. I'm going to have to add another thread in. Definitely going to stitch those 2 down again because they keep moving. Okay. And look, this is, you know, if I was doing this on my own time and not sort of trying to get this finished for you guys, I would be going back and reinforcing those as I'm working, but I'm trying to get this to a particular point today, which is why it's a little bit rushed, but I will reinforce that. Okay, so another thread. Yeah, by July's Winter's Workshops. All right, Meg. Oh, Meg's even given me a longer timeline. Thank you. Okay, I could get a brooch with those bail things on. I know what you mean, Lorraine. Thanks, Lorraine. Nice to see you here too. I think though that those convertible ones, the pendant or necklace part is more designed for a chain. and I think this will be too bulky for a chain, is my sort of first thoughts in design. So I feel like I'm going to do a beaded loop that goes on the back, and that loop will have a way to put an interchangeable rope on it, is what I'm thinking. So we'll see how this comes together. I'm going to remove that thread shortly, but I just want to re-stitch down. I want to get to the end of these flowers, then go back and do a couple of little tidy ups, then a little bit of fringing, and then I'll do the brooch back. So I'll get to that point today with this. Okay, that can come out of the way. It does look good. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. All right, so I've got my bead embroidered edge all the way around. I'm just going to go back and tighten up those 2 flowers here. I'm going to finish that thread off better than what I've just done there, leaving that tail dagging around. And then I'm going to do a little bit of fringing in some of these little gap areas just here around the hearts. Then I'll do the magnet. So, okay, let's just, again, beauty of bead embroidery, I can just bring my needle and thread anywhere in the back of the piece. You won't see that because we'll be covering that entire back. And I'm just going to come up through that pink flower again. So this was the one where I broke the thread earlier. I'm just going to re-stitch that down so that it's more secure than what it was. And the same with the yellow one that's next to it. So both of those are a little loose because of that broken thread. And that thread there's a loose thread there. So I'll stitch that down a couple of times before I cut off any of those loose threads, because you just don't want to cut off ones that you're not sure what they're attached to. Okay, so I'll stitch that again through that pink flower. Okay, that's in a much better spot. Now this yellow one, again, that one's, because of that broken thread, has come loose too. So definitely, see, there's no thread there at all on that yellow one. Okay, stitch that down again. Now another reason why potentially I will have to do a backing row, as much as I just broke the thread again, much as I love the look of with just that, because of the height of the holes on those flowers, you can just sort of see the holes on the edge just there. Can you see that? I actually don't want to see that around the edge of my beadwork, so I really want to make sure that those holes, thanks Meg for coming, nice to see you too. Mordred, Mother's Day. By the end of winter, yeah, you might be more closer to the target than anyone else, Mordred. Orange, yep. Yeah, I think orange is the sort of feature colour potentially. Okay, so yeah, I may end up having to do that row of peyote on this backing row because of those holes on these large flower beads, and I don't want to see those around the edge of the beadwork. So I think my grand plans of not having to do a peyote row are probably going to go. But what I want to do is make sure that I'm minimising the covering of these flower shapes. So that's where I'll have to be careful around the selection of beads. And potentially, I could do, yellow on here, pink on here. That might work too. Okay, let's have a think about that. All right, now I'm just going to do a little bit of fringing in between some of these gaps that are here. So somewhere like here, I'm going to pop, I need another sort of colour. like a 3mm or a 2mm pearl, I think, for some of this. I think a 3mm. Might be 3mm. So I've got some pink, I've got some orange, some red. Let's have a look at what's going to look any good with this. So there's some sort of pale pink, some red fire polish, some bright orange sort of fire polish, some orangey crystals. So some of these sort of fringy, oh, yellow, oh gosh, no, that's gold. At least I can use gold, because I definitely won't have any yellow beads in those shapes, in those sizes. Definitely not. But I will have some gold sort of pearls as well. Okay, so I want to do some sort of little fringing, and the little fringing is just to, again, give a bit of dimension and fill in any gaps that are in the beadwork. So I'm picking up an orange bead, a feature bead, and then a size 15 bead, and I'm just going to skip over the size 15 and go back through the feature bead and the size 11 and pull that through, so that I'm just creating sort of little bits of fringing here in these gaps. So that will be, I'll try not to do exactly the same thing on every one. This is about having a little bit of variety, and I'm just popping out on my bead board here some of these feature beads. So I will pick up a different selection every time. So they're all 3mm, so an orange base bead, a 15mm, and a 3mm. Skip over the 15 and just fill in that gap there like that. So probably only 3 little feature beads will be enough in each of these little gaps, and I'll just fill those in all the way around my piece like that. So you can see how that's going to go. I'm not going to do all of those now because it's going to take too long, but I'm going to show you the magnet, and then I'll potentially just do one edge, and then we'll see what that looks like. Okay, so magnets. I need to find where I've put them. Okay, I've got these stitch-in magnets. Where have I put them? I will have to find where have I put my stitch-in magnets. They're not in the class box. Again, design on the fly, you get to see me find these things wherever they might be. So stitch-in magnets have got like a plasticky sort of fabric that the magnet is glued into, and you can use that to stitch into the back of a piece. So I did that with, this is what they actually look like. So this is another brooch that I did, and there is a magnet in the back of here, and then this bit just sticks on the back of it. So it's pretty unobtrusive. You know, it's not going to wreck your clothing or anything like that when you stitch it down, but there is a plastic glued stitched in magnet behind the backing fabric there, and that just sits on the back. So that's what I'll actually put on here, but I can't see where I've actually put them. So they're in my bead room somewhere. Let me think about that while I go back to this. Okay, I wonder where they are. Somewhere here. This is where I need an assistant to help me find some of this stuff in here. So I'm going to go back to my little bit of fringe here. So again, pick up an 11, a 3mm, and a 15. And because I probably want a little bit of height there, I might pop 2 11s in there so it gives a different height. I wonder where they are. They'll be here somewhere. So pop that little bit of fringe just there on my piece in that little gap. Okay, let's move over to the next little gap here. And if the gap is going to be a bit tight, I might just put an 11 or two 15s as my little stalk on my fringe there, so that it fits easier in that gap, like that. Oh, just popped all of those off then. Good job, Paula. Okay. Again, try that again. Two 11s, feature bead. Sorry, two 15s, a feature bead, and a 15. Skip over the 15 and go through the feature and the two 15s on the stalk. Pop them in. So it's just going to go nicely in between that gap there. Add a couple more sort of featurey beads there. So again, I can go back to an 11 this time because it's a little bit more of a gap there. Feature and a 15. Come on. Not cooperating with the hole. There we go. So you can see the type of effect I'm going for in adding these little feature beads in between these gaps. So just to give a bit more dimension. So I can do that all the way around. Okay, now I want to show you what an edge is going to look like with backing on it. So I do think I'm going to have to, as much as I didn't want to, but I think I'm going to have to. So lucky I did an even amount of beads. Okay, so I'm going to come out of one of the those turnaround beads that I did earlier. Then I'm going to pick up. Now I could do yellow all the way around. I could do red around the red, yellow and pink. Let me go to a yellow one first so that I've got yellow and yellow. I know what I'm doing there. Okay. Because it might look good with the different matching colours around each of the flowers. Okay, so I'm coming out of that sort of turnaround bead there. I'm going to pick up a yellow and then just do peyote one row of yellow. Now, if I do the exact colours that match the flowers, what will happen is I won't necessarily lose as much of the flower because that yellow colour around the yellow flower is now extending that flower shape, extending it. Does that make sense? Because I'm doing the matching, I'm not necessarily losing the flower because it's extending that colour in by adding that in that peyote edge. Okay, so that means I will do pink around the pink, red around the red, because then it will extend that. Now, I've used a yellow matte bead here, so I probably want to try and keep that. And again, because I did that even number, that's worked out perfectly. I'm just popping that yellow bead and then going through that turnaround bead in that little gap there. So that sort of extends that colour straight away. So if I then come back up through my turnaround bead, this is a real cheating peyote because I'm only doing one little bit. I'll come back through the yellow bead there. Now if I add orange like we've got in the centre, orange, 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 yeah, I'll have to do one more row of 15 so that they go over the edge of that flower. Okay, that looks okay with the yellow edge there. Now come back through my centre, my turnaround one here in the join, and just push that back to the back of the beadwork. Just going to draw that tight so that it does sit really nicely over it. Then if I come back again, and I'm just going to skip up through 2 beads there, and I'm just going to add a 15 then between each of the orange. So you can see there I've added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 yellow, then I've added 6 orange, and now I think I'm only going to be adding 5 bronze, 15. So this is actually a decreasing peyote band. It's not going all the way around. It's decreased by stitch number, a bead number every time, so 5. But that is going to create a nice little capture edge just over the top of that flower. Yeah, I quite like that. Okay. All right. So if I'm here at the pink one then, again, I'm going to come up through my turnaround bead, and I want to do a row of peyote in pink. So I need a matte bead though, so that it's matching the matte of the yellow. Oh, look at that. Matte opaque light rose, perfect colour match for this. Matte opaque light rose, that's a gorgeous pink. So that pink now, so again, I'm going to add 7 of the pink beads. I'm just going to do, I'll probably just do a couple of these flowers. I won't do all of them today. Okay, pink. So if I add 7 of those, let's hope my number counts are correct all the way around. I think they were. Beading and talking and counting all at the same time. Yep, that's right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One more. Again, go through my little center joining bead here, turn around bead. I'm going to go back down through it, come back again, and I'm going to step up to go up through the pink bead here and add in a row of orange now. So again, so this time I'll just add in 6 of the orange beads. One, and you can see I'm holding my thumb pretty firmly there on that flower, so that, you know, that's where I'm holding it in place. As much as it's stitched and glued, I am holding it in place while I'm just pulling that edge up over the outer edge of that flower. So the yellow has extended the yellow flower and the pink has extended the pink flower. Again, go back down through that sort of center joining bead there. If I pull that nice and tight, and then I'm going to step up and go up through the pink and the orange bead, and then add on that one row of 5 size 15 beads. So step up through those 2. Does catch pretty much every time on one of those hearts, but that's okay. And then I'll just pop on 5 of the 15s. Okay, so by the time they have a little bit of fringing in between each of those, my nails do look the same colour, Glenda. Look at that. You know, I like to have my nails painted nicely, so yeah, they do match that pink. So that's what I'm going to do, is do the red around here, the pink and yellow, but I'm not going to finish that today. So you'll have to wait to see this in finished format, but it's looking pretty good. It's come together really well. We've got the 1950s check glass orange striped button as a center. We've got some German pressed glassed flower beads around the edge. We've got some little tiny vintage pink hearts, and then I've just added a couple of sort of bead fringes things in those gaps. And I've continued that sort of yellow and orange theme around that sort of edge of my flowers. And I will get a magnet back and stitch a magnet back onto that as well. Once this has got a magnet on it, it will become a brooch. But my thinking is that I'll do some sort of bail across the back that I can then add a rope to this as well, so it can become a pendant. So that to me is that project out of the way. But let me just clear some of this stuff off my bead board, and let's have a look at some of the other beads that Nez has kindly provided, because I've got about 20 minutes left today. So I've been going for about an hour and a half. And I'll just go on and show you something with these blue beads here, because even they possibly look good with that yellow drop there as well. So that could be the next sort of reiteration of what these look like. So this to me, if this was a triple earring, and let's use this gorgeous navette shape in the drop part of this. If I do a nice little right angle weave cabochon capture around this one here, that'll give me something to hang that navette from. And then because these flower beads have got the two holes in them, I'll then be able to join those that way and then do a beaded loop at the top. So I think that's how that will work. Now, because this is yellow and gold, I am going to bring a gold bead in with this. And I think also a blue aqua colour as well. So is that the right blue? No, that's a bit green. That's a bit green as well. That's probably a bit denim-y blue. Pale blue. Ugh, no. Maybe I might just do gold if I can't get a matching blue. Oh, that one's not too bad. Okay, that's not too bad. And let's get a gold as well. Yeah, I love this gold. Okay, so I've just popped on here a turquoisey bluey colour, and I've got this matte check gold as well. And I'm going to do a really simple right angle weave strip with these. And I love doing this with two colours, because what it does, it really helps define where your beads join on. So this is going to be one of my classes later this year. I'm actually going to use crystal file line for this. One of my classes later this year is going to be on cubic right angle weave and right angle weave. So great way using two colours to actually help work out where your walls and sides and all that sort of language that's used with right angle weave goes. Okay, now I'm going to start with the turquoisey colour. So I'm just going to pick up 4 beads on my needle, pull those through, and go through all 4 beads again. Like that. And then come back through that first bead added. So I've now been through them twice. Pull that tight. You've got a nice little cross there that starts for your right angle weave start. Okay, I'm then going to, because I want to sort of highlight a different colour, is I'm going to pick up a gold, a turquoise and a gold bead. So 3 beads for my next go round. And then I'm going to go back through that bead that I was coming out of. Just watch that my tail thread doesn't get caught in that, like that. So now I've got another set of 4. Again, I'm going to bring my needle out to this opposite side here. And I'm going to pick up 3 beads again. So I'll pick up 3 turquoise. come back through the bead that I'm coming out of, and I'm pulling that tight. I'm sort of trying to hold it firm as I'm moving through, and then I'm going to come out of that opposite bead again. The number of this, 5114 is the number of that one, Mordred. These came from Jane Tyson, so I don't know if that number is applicable across others, but it's from Jane D5114. It is a gorgeous blue. Some bead sellers will name the colours different things. Hopefully they all use the same codes though, so it does make it easy if you're trying to pick those up at another place. So you can see there I've just added a second round of the gold, and I'll keep adding this. Now I want to have an even number of these little gold sections here. So with that 18 mil, I probably need 10 repeats of the blue and the gold. So 5 gold points and 5 aqua points. So you'll see what I mean shortly when I get to that. So gold, aqua, gold. So if you've joined me late, you'll know, you may not have noticed, but these beads have come from Nez from the Bead Nerd. Nez has a really good Facebook group. She's put the link to that in the chat here. So, okay. Oh, now she's told us about these beehives. So they've come from, they're Czech, and she got them from New York, and they're from Vintage Bead Heaven. And it's full of vintage jewelry bead making supplies. So those little blue beehives, I was right, they were a beehive. They're straight from New York. So again, this concept of using vintage pieces in our beadwork, not only have they come from, you know, another part of the world, and they've traveled from the Czech Republic to New York, and they're now here in Melbourne. These are something that we're repurposing, and I really appreciate Nez being my bead supplier today and showcasing some of the vintage beads that she has. And get onto her Facebook group, because she often has different sales and things on there, and she might be able to put up direct links today to the beads that I'm actually using. So if you're interested in the beehive cabochons that I've got here today, Nez will be able to tell you what she has in stock. They might also come in other colours, who knows. So Nez, tell us a little bit more if you've got more of these beehive cabs. She's given me 4 here today, so I'll definitely get at least 1 and probably 2 pairs of earrings out of these. I'm not sure that I've got any more of these navettes that she's given me here, but I've got others, I'm sure. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, so okay, how many's going to need to go around here? Let me measure that. Oh yeah, I've got a little bit more to go. I want an even number of these sort of repeats though. So whether that's going to be 5, 8, don't know. We'll see how many that is. I'll just keep beading and working that out. Design on the fly does mean that I'm making stuff up as I'm going along. So I'm not following a pattern. It's very much about technique and using technique to design. So if you can get your basics of technique right, you can pretty much design anything. You just got to know your counts and, you know, what size beads go in what gaps, and that helps to formulate your design concepts. Using complementary and contrasting colors is part of the design process. So, you know, using yellow and pink, orange and red together was the previous project, and this one using blue and gold, because I'm picking up the blue from the beehive cab and I'm also picking up the gold from the navette. But if I was using a different drop instead of the navette, I might not use gold. I might use a different color altogether. So designing is really on the fly, working this stuff out as I go along. Okay, let's see if that's where I'm up to with that. I'm nearly there. Okay, so I'm going to pop one more set of blue on. 1, 2, 3 in the blue. And then what I want to do is actually join this little strip together. So I'm going to join this little strip here. So to join it, I want to make sure that it's not twisted for a start, but I'm going to now use the yellow or the gold beads to join to the first beads that I added. So I'll sort of fold that, and I know that that's going to join nicely around my little cab here, like that. So I just sort of fold that around my finger so that it's not twisted. I'm coming out of one bead and I'm going through the first bead added on the opposite side of my little strip. Then I'm picking up another gold bead and coming back through the bead that I was coming out of. So now I've joined that in a ring, and I know that's going to fit really nicely around my little beehive cab just here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 repeats. So I wasn't sure how many I was going to get, 8 or 9 repeats all the way around. Now to capture this around using a right angle weave strip like this, one of the things that I like to do is now put another bead in each of these gaps just here. So the second colour that I'm going to add to this, or the third colour, sorry, might actually be, I'd love a real pale blue because I want to try and pick up that blue flower. Let's see if I've got a really pale blue. Yep, I have. Well, I did have, but I just dropped them and the lid came off. So they're on the floor. Okay. Let's see if I've got another one in here that's a pale blue. In a maybe this one might work this time. This pale blue denim. That's not too bad. Okay. All right. Let's try this one. So this is a very pale blue colour. This one is from Pale Sapphire, and this is called 11F26C, so matte, and that's from Kiss Beads. I think I got that one from. Okay, so this pale blue, I'm just going to pop one of those in between each of these gaps, because what I'm trying to do is make a really nice strip that's going to go around this cab, and then I'll pop a size 15 bead. Now, actually, I don't like that one. Now, the reason I don't like it, this is probably a Toho bead. It's a little bit big to go with those Miyuki beads, so I'm actually going to take that out. I don't like it at all because it's too big for that shape. So this is part of, again, the design process, beads on the floor, not finding magnets, and swapping out bead colours when I don't like them. So I'm just going to pull that out. I don't like it. I might have to go to, I think, a contrast colour rather than, so potentially it's that sort of limey, maybe that might work, limey greeny colour. Citrine, is that what it's called? Let's see if I've got something in that colour. That's another one out of my comfort zone, but I could have something that goes with that. I'm just going to pop these pale ones away though, because they really did not work. Go away, and let's get out a citrine sort of colour. What about that? That's called, I don't know. That, I think I got those from America. Yellow. Oh, look at that. They're at 15, but they're the right colour. Okay, so I've got here little bits of beads left over that are in this sort of citrine colour. So that has got a bit of yellow and green together. No idea where these came from. These are old beads. So that one might work. It's got that little tiny green and gold together, which is going to tie into that navette. So I'm just going to pop one of those in between each of these edge beads just here. Does that work? Yeah, that probably works. So it's got a little tiny hint of green in it with the bronzy colour. They're a little bit misshapen, so if there is one that's not the right shape, I'm just culling that as I go. These are super old, these beads. I don't even know where they've come from. Somewhere in my 20 years of beading, I've peridot. Yeah, that's probably a bit green, I think, peridot for this. It's a real yellow colour. So I feel like citrine is the right name for it, but we'll see. Okay, I just want to get this first row around so that I can capture this beehive. And it will go something like. And so what that'll do is just sit over the top, just like that, of that little beehive cap. Get a few more of those out. So I'm just doing one row all the way around on the front side. Sometimes I might put a size, a row of 15s next if I need to come up over the edge, but I don't think I'll have to with this. We'll see. So I'll just pop one in between each gap. That one's a misshapen one. Get the tail out of the way. Okay, so that now, when I pop that together like that, you can see how these colours are going to go together really well. Okay, it's called jonquil. Okay, there you go. Nez has come back and told us that the colour is jonquil. Well, that makes sense because it's more yellow than green. Okay, all right. Now, I've done one row around the front side. What I'm going to do now is pull my needle and thread to go to the back part of my work, what I'm calling the back. And I'm just going to repeat that same row of beads around on the opposite side. So you can see here, there are my right angle weave first rows. There's my sort of contrast gold steps, and then there's the right angle weave. So you can see where that pattern, by using two coloured beads, makes it a lot easier to build a right angle weave strip. So if you're nervous about doing right angle weave, and I know a lot of people are, think about using multiple colours when you're actually doing it, because it certainly does help in identifying where you should put your next bead or needle, etc. So yeah, it's a great technique to be able to use multiple colours with right angle weave. So jonquil, there you go. That's the colour of that navette. So it looks really beautiful with the blues and turquoises of the beehive bead and the pressed flower bead. And I'm just continuing that row all the way around of these little greeny, yellowy coloured beads. Gosh, I'm going to have fun with my next design on the fly, which is about yellow. Really fun for me. So send me love thinking about what colours I'm going to use with yellow. Linda is my bead supplier for next month, and she's certainly risen to the challenge and sent me a package of yellow beads, and they are my nemesis colour. They're my hardest colour to work with. So you can see I've not so much struggled today, but I've really had to think about what are some of the things I can use with yellow, and this jonquil colour is looking really lovely with the aqua and golds. And I've also, of course, used yellow in the large flower pendant that I've created. So it's been used, but next month will be full on yellow for my next design on the fly. So that is on the 18th of May. Coming shortly to you will be the next one. It'll be a huge day that day because I'm teaching that afternoon for the Bead Society as well. So anyway, that's life. When I love beading, I love to be able to be out and about sharing it wherever I possibly can. Okay, let's see what else. We've got a couple more to go. So once I've got this little strip ready, I can start to think about how I'm going to back this beehive bead, back the back of it. Okay, the tail's just gotten caught in there, and eventually I'll just be able to cut that tail off, not just yet. So I've now created a ring. So it's my right angle weave ring. So you can see here, there's the crosses of the right angle weave, the gold, the cross, the gold, the cross. So you can actually see that definition really well now in the shapes there. Okay, and then that forms a really nice ring to capture this beehive. So what I want to do, I'm just sort of placing it so that the outer edge of my right angle weave strip is just matching the outer edge of the beehive. And then I want to try and just loop and capture this together. So I'm coming out of, what am I coming out of? I'm coming out of a gold bead. So I'm now just going to pick up 5 gold beads, and I'm going to go through, where am I going to go through? No, I'm actually going to pick up 3 gold beads. I'm going to go through the next gold bead on that edge just there. So I'm starting to make a little net around my cab. And this is on the back side. So again, I pick up 3 gold beads. Just sort of fold them over so they're just sitting over the edge of that cabochon just there. So 3 gold, go through the next gold. Again, the beauty of using different colours creates anchor points for right angle weave. Now it's sort of moving because I haven't tightened anything yet. But again, I just keep picking up 3, going through the gold. If I had an even number, I'd probably pick up 5 and go through 2, go over 2. But because I've got an odd number of gold beads, I can't go to 2, I can only go to 1. So that's where the maths of beading comes into it, you know, odd versus even numbers. And I know because I had that odd number of 9 to start with, that I haven't got, I can't skip over 2, I can only skip over 1. But that's okay, it still works out beautifully. And then I'm going to step up right through to the center of the first little net that I added. I'm sorry my thumb's in the way, but I need to sort of hold that in place. Okay, I'm at the net. Now I'm just going to pick up 1 aqua bead and go through the next center bead. So all of a sudden you'll see how this will start to tighten over the back of this cab. So 1 aqua and through the next center bead. 1 aqua through the next center bead. Now I'm just going to pull that firmly. Not too firmly because I don't want to pull that right off the piece. 1 aqua through the next center bead. This will all, I feel like, come together with the edge. There we go. Okay, and then we'll go over to the front side of it. So the back is, and the back of these beads are beautiful. I don't have to completely cover the back of the bead either. So that's nice to, you know, not have to completely cover something. You can see how that's just joining together now with that little nets. So I'm just picking up 1 aqua, and that's just drawing a nice little circle over the back. I'm going to cut that tail off because that's really super annoying me. One aqua through the center bead. And 1 aqua and through the center. And I should have added on 9 aqua beads. I think I will have. 1 aqua and then back through the first center bead, added like that. Now just pull that up over the edge and I'll pull that nice and firmly. You can see now I've now got a really nice back. Lovely circle there. My edge is firm around the front of the beehive as well. I might pop another 15 bead then in the front just to secure that. But I've got a lovely little circle formation on the back here from that net. What I'm going to do now though is just run through all of those beads one more time. So through the aqua gold aqua, aqua gold aqua, I'm going to pull that nice and tight. That's really firm now as a right angle weave capture around that. And you can see here, you can still see the cross formation of the right angle weave. Got this really nice circular back to the piece. So the tighter I draw that, the better that formation actually looks. And again, I might have to just pop a 15 on the front of this piece just to hold that so that it doesn't completely pop out of that capture. But that's, yeah, I will have to because it's going to move too much otherwise. So if I draw that too tight, what will happen is this will just pop completely out of the front. So I need to actually put another row on the front. But what I wanted to show you is then I will think about how to attach the top flower bead and of course then the navette. So ignore that there's no 15 in the front of this at the minute, so I will get to that. I might not do that right now. I want to just get to this next point. So remember I had 9 beads to start with. So I'm coming out of one of the cross beads on my flower. Sorry, on my beehive. I'm going to pick up a gold bead and go up through one of the flower beads like that. Then I want to add a little loop. Where is my size 15? I want to add a little loop so that I can do an earring hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'll go back through the opposite hole on that flower bead. So there's my loop already for that earring. And now I'll just add one more gold bead. Like that, and I'm going to go back through the opposite cross on that flower, on that right angle weave there. Okay, I'm going to come up again. I'm going to add another gold and go back through that flower again. So I'm coming out of the opposite side of the blue bead, come back up through my flower and through my size 15 beads. And what that'll do is reinforce that loop so that I'm going through all of those beads twice, because that's where the most pressure will be with the earring hook hanging from this loop, like that. And when I come down the opposite side, I want to add another size 11 bead through that blue cross bead, like that. Okay, so now I've added the flower to the top. Then I want to add the navette to the bottom, so I'm going to pull my needle all the way around to the bottom of the beadwork. So remember I had 9 beads, 9 points. I've just used 2, so I should theoretically have 1 blue cross at the bottom, which should be central to adding the navette to the bottom. Let's see if my maths are correct, but that should be the way that it works, is that I should have 1 blue cross right in the bottom of my beehive there, because I used, is that correct? No, that's not right. Okay, now I know my maths is not right. I used 1 cross, so I should have 2 at the bottom. Yes. Okay, I used 1, so I should have 2 at the bottom, so there should be a central point between the 2, which is where the navette will be hung from. And yes, that is correct. Okay, so I used my 2. And so now I've got this gold point right here at the bottom, which is the center of those other flowers. And that is how I can then add that navette to hang from the bottom of that piece right there. So I will just pick up a size 11 bead How am I going to do this? 11, yeah, an 11, and I'm going to, actually, I'm going to pick up 3 size 11s. I'm going to go through the navette, because I'm going to need to have this create sort of like a V shape so that it's even. And then I'm going to pick up another 3, and I'm going to come through the opposite gold side there. Okay, like that. And then I want to do it again so that I'm even on both sides coming through that navette. So I pick up another 3, and I'm going to go through the navette again, and then another 3, and come up. Oh, there, that beehive popped out. So I definitely have to do row of 15s around that. Definitely. And that navette, I want to come the opposite way. Opposite way. So I've just gone through the wrong way that way. I want to come that way. So that I've got 2 in the back and 2 in the front. Yep. And then flip that over. And then 3 through the front. So 1, 2, 3. Okay. So there, my navette is now captured at the bottom. The flower is captured at the top. And I just have to pop that little row of 15s around the center of the beehive. And that will hang that beautifully on the beehive. And there is another earring completed. Okay. So today we've got 2 unfinished projects and 1 finished project. So sometimes I get through more, but I haven't actually been able to finish everything today. So I will go through and do a little bit more work over the next few days. So we've got the beehive bead with the flower and the navette, and I've done a right angle weave capture around that. I'm just going to have to tidy up some size 15s to tighten that, but you can see how I've used the loop of the navette to actually attach it to the bottom of the earring, and I use the holes in the flower to create the top part of that earring. We've got these gorgeous little super simple crystal rings straight into earrings. I cut off one of the loops that was on here, and I just hung those from a hook straight up. So that's a nice easy one. And of course then there's the big monster project, which is the glass 1950s check button, along with some of these pressed flower beads with some bead embroidery edging all the way around. Again, I'm going to turn that into a brooch and then a pendant with a detachable rope. So that will be something that will be happening over the next few weeks. If you have a look at my bead board, it's an absolute mess. So that's my job also, is to clean up some of these beads over the next little while. And I just want to thank all of you for coming along today and seeing my design on the fly with vintage. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been a pleasure to work with Nez and have a great range of beads from her. Check the links in the feed today to see her store. Make sure that you join her Facebook group so that you get to see some of the beads that she has on offer. And sometimes she has specials just for Facebook group people. And she's often a bead seller at any of the Bead Society of Victoria events as well. So thanks everybody for coming along today to Design on the Fly Vintage. I really enjoyed the interaction we've had today, and I hope that you've enjoyed it too. Thanks.